Hi everyone, and welcome back to Parkitect. Today we venture out to Coral Island where a wealthy entrepreneur has purchased this idyllic caldera in the middle of the ocean and wishes to turn it into a bustling attraction. The park entrance fee must remain free though. The scenario has a couple of goals of having an overall park rating of at least 70%, selling at least 800 park tickets, and then the optional goals of selling 400 park tickets by December of year 2. The optional goal should be pretty easy, and the 800 park tickets will actually probably be a lot, but at least it does not have to be concurrent. So I'm liking the direction of this, and I think we can be able to get the 70 happiness. So without further ado, let's get on in. So I know this is kind of becoming tradition now, but I gotta start off this time-lapse portion by saying that this is actually going to be a 2-part episode. You can probably already tell that by the title of the video, so it doesn't really need that much explaining, but this episode was kind of tough. And before I even turn the park on and let guests come in, although I think I actually had like 2 or 3 guests come in accidentally, but before the majority of the guests came in and before like the real-time portion started, I think this video had been like 30 minutes already, so it'll definitely be a 2-part episode. With that being said though, I think that the work that we do put in this episode and what you're going to be able to see is worth that. And so next episode we'll be actually able to see guest walk in the different portions of the park that we created. So I think that'll be cool. And it'll give it a little bit more time to flesh out this park, especially because the last one we did, oh god, which one was that? That was Victoria Falls. Yeah, that was the lake one. That park felt a little uncompleted. So I'm hoping that by extending this one out to 2 episodes, even if they are a little bit longer, and I would like people to let me know how they feel about the longer episodes. I know it probably depends on like people's taste, so there's probably varying opinions on whether they like the long episodes or short ones. But depending on what people think, I might switch my format around a little bit, just because the last episodes have been pretty long. But if people do like the longer episodes, I am fine making them. They do take a little bit longer to make, but I think that you're able to see more of the park, and I do like that aspect. So this will be a 2-parter. That's the long story short, or short story long. And now I guess we're getting into our first building, which is what I would consider the information desk, or the main point of finding, I don't know, I guess most parks nowadays, they don't just hold, not even nowadays, I think most parks in general don't hold maps and like an information building. Most of them are just passed out right up front when they're trying to grab your pictures, and everybody's so nervous that they don't. I don't know if anybody else actually has that experience. I should have backtracked. How many people, when they walk into a theme park, are nervous about getting their picture taken? I know that like there's a ton of like social anxiety about getting your picture taken. Some people, especially if you're in a group with like your girlfriend or your sisters, they'll be the people that want to take the pictures. But me and my friends, I think that's probably the worst part about going into a theme park, is having to walk past the people awkwardly that are trying to grab your picture, like, hey, welcome to Cedar Point, well, hey, welcome to whatever park you're in, let me take your picture real quick so you can commemorate the moment. Except for the fact that you have to pay for the picture if you really want it, so it's not really even worth taking one. But you kind of feel guilt tripped into it, because that poor person, they don't want to be doing it either. That's their basically minimum wage job for the summer. They're just trying to pay for all their fun the rest of the year. But they got stuck taking your picture, and now you got stuck getting your picture taken. So that was a really strange tangent and not what I was expecting to go on. But the whole point is, this building is supposed to be like the information building. And I'm not sure if you can actually tell from it, because I've just been looking at the park for so long that I know what I was intending to do. But I really just struggled in general to find like a theme for the park. And you'll kind of notice that throughout the builds, especially with like the difference between this building that I'm working on right now and the previous building. There is quite a variety on theming. So far, it actually kind of did me dirty on this park. And I guess it's probably a good thing that you should be able to go and find what theme you think fits best for the park. And since it is a campaign, you wouldn't hope that all parks look the same, right? It would be completely boring if everybody thought the same way and everybody chose the same themes. But it was incredibly difficult for me to find like just like a starting point in what I wanted to do to make this park. And I think there's actually like I'm sure there's psychology like theories for everything, but I think paradox of choice is what it's called. Like it's a big thing on like Netflix. You know, when you're browsing Netflix or I guess nowadays Hulu or Disney Plus or whatever streaming services you have, even just regular cable, like having so many choices on what you could do is like a really tough thing. And you know that lends itself to design too. When you're trying to design things, you know, having a starting point is so important because without that, you're kind of lost in like your sea of ideas. You know, you might have a couple different ideas, but no idea where to get there, and so you don't know how to start or which one would look best, and so you just get stuck and you don't do anything, right? You waste more time flipping through Netflix trying to find that right show versus actually watching one. So making that first step with that, you know, building that I made was really, really tough. And I think a big challenge throughout the whole part was just trying to find a theme, and I did an okay job towards the end of this episode, really blending it all together. So that first building was sort of Jurassic Park-ish theme, because you know we're on an island, you're in the middle of nowhere. I know it's supposed to be like a caldera or whatever, so it's supposed to be like tranquil and like peaceful. And Jurassic Park may not be that. Well, actually, in the first half of the first movie of Jurassic Park, it was pretty peaceful when the people were all excited, like, "Wow, this is amazing!" You know, before the dinosaurs decided to eat everybody. So, no dinosaurs on this park. I did have an idea at one point in time to try to like make like a dinosaur out of like the different spheres and you know cones in different parks, but that was way too difficult for me and it would have turned out terrible and a waste of time. So didn't go with that. But now I actually want to backtrack for a second as I go back and work on the chair swing cue, which is actually super, super, super basic. But the whole reason why I put the chair swing over here was number one, I love chair swings. I've mentioned this before that my two favorite flat rides are the Twister and the chair swings. But the last time I was on a chair swing, I was at Cedar Point, and I know people are going to get tired of me talking about Cedar Point, but theirs is actually on a pond like that because it's over in the Frontierland, right? And we were in the middle of the summer at the very end of the night, so it was completely pitch black. And I thought it'd be cool, you know, to go on the chair swing at night when you couldn't see except for like the lights on the rides and like the buildings. And I thought that would be like a cool kind of environment. I was completely wrong. Since it's right on like the pond and it was humid in the middle of summer, there were gnats everywhere. The entire ride was the most painful experience of my entire life. There were just gnats hitting you in your hands and your face. I had to cover my eyes with, and then you know, have my left hand over the one eye or the eyes, and then my right hand over my mouth and my nose. I didn't get bugs up my nose or you know in my mouth. You know, but then you have bugs like flying into your ears too. It was like it was hailing outside, except for instead of hail, it was bugs. It was disgusting. It was gross, and it honestly tainted my my vision of those kind of rides. But I will do it again, just not at night and not at the very end of summer when, you know, gnats and bugs galore are out there. But that was probably TMI and extremely gross, but it's a fun story about that, and that is why I put the chair swings near the water. And I guess another thing I kind of skipped earlier on was at that front main entrance, which is, you know, although it's like completely different than the buildings that I'm working on here right now, there's a lot of theming in it from Disneyland. It was kind of like a tie between that main building. I don't know if it's a hotel. It's been so long since I've been to Disney. But I think it is a hotel that has like the main monorail that goes through the whole thing. So my whole thought process was like in this park, people come onto like the pier and then they have to walk through a tunnel through like the mountain. And when you get to the other side, it's kind of like that aha moment, right? That's why I originally was thinking maybe Jurassic Park style because like you're completely immersed in like a whole new world. So having that gigantic building be there and be that like main entranceway that's really extravagant that you walk out of, like, oh wow, like, you know, I'm here, I'm in this theme park, like I'm ready to go. And that's actually where like a lot of my other inspiration for different buildings in the park came, which is, you know, Port of Adventure of oh gosh, maybe it's Port of Entry at Islands of Adventure. That is the right thing. So I've actually never been to Islands of Adventure, and for those who don't know, that is in Orlando, and it's the park that has the Harry Potter theme world, the Jurassic world. There's different eight islands. I think Dr. Seuss, There's the old Marvel superheroes because they actually don't have the park rights to the new superheroes. That is Disney. And I'm not sure how that all works. I'm not sure if it's like Florida gets to have, or Universal in Florida gets to have the old characters, and then I don't know if Disney could build like the new character or themed around the new characters in Disney World, because I know that they are building a park out in California for that, and it looks really really cool, like Marvel's campus. So I would like to go on that. But going back to Islands of Adventure and that, it was a mixture between like a kind of like a colonial island and like almost like military port. It's like so many different like cultures like all combined together, and I think it's like so unique. And there's actually probably a fair amount of theme parks that have like tried to copy that idea of like an entrance, because it really just makes you feel as soon as you walk in. I think it says like ready for adventure or get ready for adventure on like this main like overhanging rock that you walk underneath into the park, and that basically sets the tone for like your whole day in the park. I talked about that story about going to Cedar Point and like setting that whole day with like the song and everybody getting all excited. It's the same kind of idea, right? You're walking in and you are now ready for the day. You are fully immersed and you're ready to go in. The one thing I really like about Islands of Adventure is their level of detail and their theming. I think that's something that I could definitely strive to improve on in my parks going forward, and I think I try to do a pretty decent job here. Although, the styles of the building and the architectures are all kind of sort of different. I've really worked on trying to make it feel like you're in the path going through the park, and really experiencing all the areas like you were actually there and not just like this godly figure over top looking at it. But despite me talking so much about Islands of Adventure, I've actually never been. It's one thing I would love to go. Number one, because my family loves Harry Potter. They're huge into Harry Potter. And I think most people are. It's one of those big franchises like Star Wars, Harry Potter. I'm not going to put Hunger Games on that list. But, Marvel Studios. Those kind of like family name franchises that people like to see. But the other cool thing is they have just finished building, and I think they actually had a couple test riders on it, a new Vekoma or Intamin Blitz, which is actually the same coaster type as Maverick, and it's going in the Jurassic Park theme, and I think it's called Velocicoaster. Yeah, I think Velocicoaster sounds right, which is a sweet name, and it actually goes right in front of like the original Jurassic Park looking building, and it's actually incredible, like the level of detail that they have and how much it matches like the movie. But the reason I bring up Velocicoaster is, and just like Maverick and Intamin Blitzes, they are very low to the ground and have elements that mesh with the terrain. There's other coasters that do that well, especially like Lightning Rod at Dollywood. But the coaster that I'm building right now, even though it's a junior coaster and it's not an Intamin Blitz, I really wanted to get a ride that had lots of features that worked around the hill, because this entire island is basically just like one giant donut essentially, with hills around the sides and then the middle section's flat. You can't actually build on any of the beaches because there's the fence that's like defies like the outline of the park. So I wanted to try to use the mountains or hilly regions of this park to actually have some cool like coaster interactions and elements. I probably could do a better job at maybe like adding some rocks or different like foliage around it, or I don't know, maybe just using the painting tool to like color the terrain different underneath the track. I think that's like an old roller coaster tycoon trick. I know that's something that Silverette uses a lot, and I can't remember if that was something that I used or not, because I wasn't as serious as a player. Like I played all the old roller coaster tycoon games, but my parks were never this level of detail and they were never that great. So I love when rides have those features that interact with the terrain and with water elements, Maverick. But as I kind of mentioned before, another coaster that's really like that is Lightning Rod at Dollywood. And now I've talked up Islands of Adventure, and I'm going to try to switch topics and, talk about Dollywood, because Dollywood may be the best park in the world. I always talk about how Ohio is so lucky that we have where we used to have three, but now we have two of the best parks in the world. I think Dollywood has the potential for being the best park in the world, right? It doesn't have a whole bunch of like the record-setting coasters, although Lightning Rod did set quite a few when it initially released. I'm not sure if some of them got reverted because it definitely has its fair share of technical problems. Just being, the world's first launched wooden coaster, which RMC did an incredible job on. But Dollywood has such a wide like array of rides that they offer. The last time I was actually in the park was during like I think the Summer Olympics. I think that's right. In 2012 it would have been. So it's been a long time, and it was my favorite park that I've been to so far, purely because it's the best theme park. I think Six Flags tries to do, or maybe I don't know, between Six Flags and Cedar Fair. I forget. I know that back in the day, one of them was known for more theming than the other, and I should really know that. But Dollywood definitely steals the mantle above any of the other like chains. And probably because it's not a chain, it was made by Dolly Parton for that state. She wanted to give back and have a place that people could go enjoy themselves. And it's definitely exploded too. The, admissions that they get there, even during COVID, and it seems to me that they're doing really safe practices, but it's amazing how much traction that they've gotten and how they've been able to not like necessarily corporatize the park and like keep with its roots. It feels like they genuinely care about the park when you're there. Since I was there in 2012, they've added, I think, 4 or 5 new coasters. Like, it was crazy when I was there, and I enjoyed it. And I think the reason why I enjoyed it the most was, like, I wasn't really afraid to ride any of the coasters that were there. Like, going to Cedar Point, you're pretty intimidated. If you're not, like, a big, I'm going to ride every ride in the park kind of guy or girl, you will be intimidated by some of the, rides and the superstructures, honestly, that they have there. But with Dollywood, everything, like, is very terrain conforming. So even though they do have some still pretty tall drops and, really cool turns and twists and elements on their coasters, like, everything just feels more down to earth. And, like, you can actually go and conquer that. So that's one of the things I like the most about it. And I would love to go back. Honestly, as soon as COVID is over and, hopefully soon, fingers crossed, get a vaccine, I would love to go back to that park. That is one of the first parks that I want to go to, and then probably go to Port of Adventure. Islands of Adventure and see Port of Entry, as well as Harry Potter and the Jurassic World themes. But another fun story that I have from going to Dollywood is, I don't know, I mean, it's basically theme park related, right? Dollywood has it's basically a stellar water park associated. I think it's called like Splash Country. And they have, which at the time I thought was the tallest free falling? Yeah, I think that's the right word. Tallest free falling water slide. It is not. Back in 2012, I would have been, 15, 14, between 14 and 16. So I was, not like young, but still relatively, scared of rides. But my parents convinced me to go on to, I think what's called like Fire Tower Falls, which is the tallest water slide in the entire park of Splash Country. And it was terrifying. It didn't look that bad from the top because they use a lot of, terrain conforming. So you get to the top of the water slide and, I'm talking to the lifeguard. I'm like, hey, this is not that tall, right? And to which she says, oh, yeah, there's definitely another water slide that's taller than this. And I think it's like in some other country, which when I found out now, it's, I think, Kilimanjaro in Brazil, and that one's like over 90 feet of drop. Anyways, I step up and I'm like, well, I'm already here, so I might as well just go. And it was terrifying. Really cool experience, something I probably wouldn't do again, but a cool experience. You plunge down, I think it's like 140 feet of slide, but 70-foot drop into another 140 feet of just basically just water, and you skin the back of your shoulder blades, and yeah, it's a fun experience to say that you've done, and not one that I would ever do again. But let's get back into roller coasters now, which is more of what this is about, other than water parks. And we are finally finishing up the coaster station. This is something that I struggle with entirely. I kind of mentioned this a couple times throughout the episode, but just not knowing exactly what kind of architecture and what kind of style I wanted, it was really challenging, especially when you're building a coaster station, which is something that's supposed to be one of like the bigger, more important parts of the park that people are going to look at when they're going to get on a ride. you know. And sure, like I've mentioned, there's some chains that don't theme as well. This is something that I really wanted to stand out and look at. And I love having that multi-level look, especially to these coaster stations. So that's why I have like the little round section on the side with like the queue weaving through it, then up the stairs and up to the thing. Because you always play that game if you're going to a park more than not, you're going to be riding the rides. But if you're like me and you're off the ride and you're playing the game of, all right, how far are they in line? I've been on 2 flat rides already while they've been in line. Like, how much time do I have before they're actually on the ride and I can just, we can move on? So, you're looking at the queue station and, here, oh, there they go. They popped out of that, the first section. So now they have 2 more sections to go before they're actually going to be on the ride. So that's kind of where the inspiration for that came on. And I like that. And it's something that I kind of try to include in all of my queue stations. I'm not sure if the line necessarily needed to be that long because, again, it's technically supposed to be a junior coaster, like in game. I definitely made it more. Actually, the intensity rating was only like 15 or 16 on that ride. It had a excitement rating of over 50 though, so that's pretty solid. But yeah, the intensity rating was not very high, so maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it does fit the junior coaster, layout and what people would consider a junior coaster. So maybe the queue line is respectable in that length. The queue line for the bumper cars, though, is definitely way too long. It's fine, though, in my opinion. The little overhead for the queue is definitely doesn't fit anything else in the park, but I didn't really want to have like a really just rough transition between the two because the bumper cars are straight glass and metal connectors to hold the glass in place, so or metal beams rather. And I don't think that if I would have done like wood or stone or like just anything of that nature to try to like meld it together with the other themes in the park, it would have worked very well. So I think that how I did it turned out okay. Now, I think we're going to knock out the last 2-ish buildings of this park. Or at least this first section of the park. I should not say that it's the last 2 buildings of the park because this park is far from complete. But I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do with these ones either. There's such a difference in style between the front building, which is almost more of like a futuristic cafe. I mean, it's not too futuristic, thankfully, because I used mostly like stone materials and I think like plaster drywall for like the top. Really common and normal, American and really generic park main streets. Followed by like, I think I put boba in the second one, which I'm so surprised of all the different drinks that Parkitect could have in the game. Boba tea is one of them. I don't blame them. I've never actually had boba tea before. I've heard it's incredibly good, and I definitely should have it at some point in time, but it really surprised me that that was one of the drinks that they had included in the game. So I tried to have like the theming of like, hell, the theme doesn't even match. Like I tried to make like a surf kind of like wave up on the top, and I think the main reason I did that is because the colors of like the boba stand are like this really cool like seafoam green to like teal. And so I had some of those accent colors on the wall, and I think it adds a lot, and it makes the building stand out, especially compared to like the more grayscale or like brown scale buildings that I have. But I did try to connect it all back together with having more of a stone built like medieval sort of, but like also slightly pirate themed. And here, that's where I go again. The themes are all sorts of all over the place, but when you look at them all together, and maybe it's just the art style. Maybe I'm giving myself too much credit, in the art style of the game with Parkitect. It's just so good that anything you can build will look good. Which you gotta give the developers props for that. You know, as a developer myself, like artwork is not easy, and the fact that they're able to make it fit with the game well, so the gameplay aspect looks good, but also like the artwork. And I mean, I don't want to say that development doesn't take skill and that it's not challenging, because it is, but artwork is a whole nother beast. So to get that all to mend well together, that's pretty impressive. And I can't say it's all my architecture that's doing it. It's definitely the parts and the pieces and the gameplay and the art style that they went for. I do think though that I have gotten a little repetition between the different parts and the styles of parts that I've been using. I do switch it up, or try to switch up on every single building, and I think all the buildings definitely look unique in this park. But I think at some point along the line, I kind of want to do like a Dr. Seuss or very cartoon inspired theme, because I have like the really big, like almost like candy looking trees that look really, really cool, and some other things that definitely look more Dr. Seuss or like toony. So I think that could definitely fly for a section of the park. I'm not sure if it fits with this one. I would love for it to, because it definitely has that Islands of Adventure theming, and different styles like all meshed together, trying to like make a collage basically between different architectures and styles. But if that's something that you're interested in, let me know. And also, I know that the parks have like generic themes. Like I think this one's technically supposed to be like an Asian or a Pacific Islander rather theme to it. I don't follow that at all. But if you have a specific theme that you'd like to see in like future parks, definitely let me know in the comments below, and I will try to make that happen. Especially like if I see like a park that could fit that theme, I will definitely go and do my best to work on that. This is, I think, the last ride that we're going to do in this part. And I had to get it in because I'm really nervous when I open the park, which I guess, cliffhanger, you're going to have to wait and see the next episode. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to be cash flow positive. I think I will. I'm leaving like $400 at the end of this for like operating expenses. And I'm hoping that like by the end of month one that all the profit generated from the rides and like the food and stuff will be enough to cover, and we'll be able to build some out. I've actually placed they only give us 2 like intense or like medium intensity rides or flat rides to place. So hopefully those will be enough to calm people down and no one will turn into vandals on me and destroy the park. So fingers crossed on that. I'm hoping that we can, have a successful run, but we'll try to finish the park and make it more of a cohesive unit, and I'm really looking forward to that. So, for now, if you like this video, please leave a comment. Let me know what kind of themes you'd like to see next. Leave a like, tell your friends about it, and I will see you all next week. Take care, everybody. Later.